have with me an eminent journalist, Mr. Parunjay Guha Thakurta, who doesn't need an introduction. We can call him an all-in-one man. Sir, my first question to you is, nowadays PR has been included in journalism syllabus. Is it ethical to include PR in journalism syllabus? Because PR is considered anti-journalism.
No, I don't think this is as simple as that, anti-journalism and pro-journalism. If public relations professionals do their job honestly, then they help journalists. You know, sometimes public relations people are being paid by a particular organization or a particular political party or a particular individual to give a certain point of view. If that person discloses that he or she is a public relations professional, that he or she is acting on behalf of a particular organization, a particular individual, then there's nothing unethical about it. Journalists depend on public relations officials for information. It doesn't mean that the journalist has to agree with everything that the PR person says. Similarly, the PR person doesn't have to agree with everything a journalist has to say. Sometimes the relationship between a journalist and a PR person can be antagonistic, but not necessarily so. If both are honest and sincere and transparent, then even if there's disagreement, there need not necessarily be conflicts of interest if both act in an honest, ethical and transparent manner.
And my next
But some of my best friends are public relations professors.
Okay, my next question is, what is the difference between Lok Sabha channel and the other channels, the private channels? What did you come across in your personal experience?
You see, Lok Sabha television channel in India is the only channel of its kind which is owned and operated by the lower house of parliament in India. In other parts of the world, there are television channels that broadcast parliament proceedings, like C-SPAN in the United States. On many occasions, these are channels which are run by independent trusts or societies or non-profit making bodies. Sometimes they are public-private partnerships. The difference is that the Lok Sabha television channel and now also the Rajya Sabha television channel are the only two channels of its kind. They're unique because they're both owned and operated by the Parliament of India. That's in terms of its ownership. In terms of the quality of the programming, I think quite a bit, not necessarily everything, but quite a bit of the programs that are put out are plays the role. I mean, Lok Sabha television and Rajya Sabha television, like Doordarshan, they're supposed to be public service broadcasters. They are not dependent on advertising revenue. They can be independent of pressures put by advertisers. It's not as if there are no pressures that operate. The pressures are maybe different. The pressures may be political in nature. But the Parliament of India is supposed to be above the government. So in that sense, if a television channel like the Lok Sabha television channel or the Rajya Sabha television channel truly reflects the different voices of the representatives of people of different parts of India representing different political parties, then they would add to plurality and heterogeneity of the views that are put out on television channels. And finally, I think there's a lot of so-called news and current affairs channels which are run by private organizations which insults the intelligence of their viewers. They dumb their audiences down. And if people look on that idiot box as a means of something more than song and dance and entertainment, then they can actually watch Lok Sabha television channel because they might get some quality information and perhaps, who knows, even knowledge, who knows, even wisdom.
So you're saying that content in the public service broadcaster is better than compared to that in private channels?
Sometimes, on occasions, more serious, less dumbed down, sometimes more relevant. It's not that as if all the time it is that way, but because of the nature of the organization, because of the circumstances and the compulsions that operate on that, it often can provide you certain kinds of information in a certain manner which may not be provided to you by private television channels.
Mr. Park, I hope that I pronounced your name correctly.
That's all right.
Okay.
I've been called terrible names.
Oh, no, not terrible. I cannot pronounce your name. Yeah. If journalistic story has a conflict with the A3 policy, what do you suggest? Leave it or keep it?
I would say that suppose you have a story which goes against the owner of the publication or the owner of the television channel or the editor. The question is, if you want your job, then if you say something nasty about your owner and editor, then he'll throw you out of your job, or he will make life so difficult that you'll be forced to leave. But if the information that you have about your owner, about your editor is correct, and you still want your job, then what you should do is you pass on the information to the rival channel and hope that the rival channel will be able to put out that information. Because at the end of the day, what matters is the information. Is that information factually correct? Can it be authenticated? Is it credible? Is it balanced? I think that's what matters.
So it's risky.
Of course it's risky. Life is filled with risk. But if you say, I'm not going to walk down the road, because if I walk down the road, I can be run over by a car, then you'll never walk down the road. Because there's always a danger that you're fearing something could happen. You said, I won't walk down this road because a brick could fall and I could die. Then you'll never walk. You'll always remain in the road. Life is filled with risks, so sometimes we take this risk. We must be careful. We must be calculated. We must not jump in front of a fast-moving car, because then you want to kill yourself.
So keep it if it deserves, huh? Keep it if it deserves.
It's yes and no. Journalism, it is often said, is meant to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted. It was said by an American journalist, a well-known saying. So, many things are said about journalists. Good news is no news, bad news is good news. Journalism is the first, news is the first rough draft of history. News is what someone somewhere wishes to hide. The rest is advertisement.
Yeah, of course.
If it leads, it must be bleed. Or if it bleeds, it must lead. That's what it says.
And one more question. About the regulation, regulation has two sides of the coin. It can be bad or it can be good. Good because there is a limitation for the people to just support and keep the rights of the people. And on the other hand, there's a bad side that maybe it restricts the freedom of the speech.
All right. You're right.
So, to me, it's right or it's right. If you want to sum all
Yes
of these,
and it's no. It's no and it's yes. It is yo and it's ness.
Okay.
Why? What kind of regulation? Regulation
It's my next
with a heavy hand, regulation with a light touch. If a boy of 8 has climbed onto a mango tree and stolen a mango, do you put him behind bars? Put him in jail? You have stolen somebody else's mango? You're an 8-year-old boy, you are behind bars? No, that's excessive. The punishment is excessive, disproportionate to the crime committed. But if you are a grown man and you have stolen somebody else's properties and you are caught, then you can be put in jail and you can be punished. So it depends who, when, where, why, when, the 5 W's and the H, how.
Okay.
So at the end of the day,
the self-regulation or the government.
see, self-regulation works up to a point.
Yeah.
But you also need statutory regulation for those who are not willing to be the nice guys. So all countries, in a best situation, in an ideal situation, self-regulation is the best form of regulation.
Yeah.
But what do you do when some people do refuse to adhere to the norms of self-regulation? Then what do you do? Suppose you want to refuse to regulate yourself. Your mother tells you, eat your food, vegetables, fruits, rice, dal, bread, but you said no, I only want to have potato chips and ice cream. Do you think your mother will let you? You'll spoil your health. So you need a balanced diet. You can't survive only on potato chips and ice cream. Similarly, just as every human body needs a balanced diet, our society also needs a balance between regulation with a light touch and regulation with a heavy hand. Self-regulation and regulation imposed by a government or a statutory authority.
So,
It's the balance
do
that
you
is
think
difficult.
that this balance is currently?
Sometimes it's imbalance. And this balance is not easy. The balance is difficult to find. But you still have to try to find the balance. There should always be that endeavor, that attempt that should be made.
Thank you.
Is ethics in media a myth or reality?
It's reality.
But how?
How? Because it is real, it affects everybody. How can you say it's a myth? Is business ethics a myth?
Okay.
Is legal ethics a myth? Ethics is important for every profession, for every person, for every walk of life. So I don't think you can say it is a myth.
But still, you're not following the rule and regulations as they were saying we should follow the things.
Just because there's a law which says that murder is a crime
Okay.
and rape is a crime, has it stopped people from killing others and raping others? There's a law which says that you cannot get married unless you belong to a certain age. That you cannot make a child work. There are laws in India. Has it prevented people from getting married at a young age or a children being employed? Answer no. So there is a letter of the law, there is a spirit of the law. There is what the law states and what civil society accepts or doesn't accept. It's a very complicated situation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Journalism and journalism.
My pleasure.